Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Legal Zone, where we tackle injustice. Let me change I'll put it in the gallery in a minute. Well, hold on. Maybe I'll keep it here. All right. Welcome, Dr. Cheney. How are you doing today?
Okay, thank you.
Glad to see you. Love the scarf.
Thank you.
Mr. Salatti, how's it going?
Very well, Mr. Phillips. Great to be back in the legal zone.
Yes, indeed. And we have our special returning guest, and I'm going to get to him in a minute. But I want to recap something. A lot of the cases that we handle are family law cases, and we represent fathers and mothers, anybody who is having a custody battle. But unfortunately, fathers seem to have a much more difficult time getting custody. I wanted to share with the audience the factors that courts consider when trying to make a determination as to what is in the best interest of a child. Sometimes judges, they don't even have children. Some of these judges have no experience in family matters. They're not therapists. They're not psychologists. So they rely on the attorney to educate them, not only on the law, but on family matters. And there's a statute. Every state has this. DC is called 16, it's DC statute 16-915. And these are the factors that a court may consider when trying to determine what's the best interest of the child. That's the whole thing. What's best for a child? You have the law, but then you have psychology, sociology. You have humanity. You have to understand what's good for a child, because this child is going to go out into society. And everything this child does impacts all of us. So these are the factors that a judge would consider, and the attorneys try to somehow apply these factors into the case at hand. One is the wish of the child. What does the child want? And notice it says we're practicable here. That's a factor. The best wishes or the wishes of the child's parents. Well, every parent wants the child, right? So I don't even know why they have that there. The interaction and interrelationship of the child with his or her parents, his siblings, and everyone who is emotionally or psychologically has this type of effect on the child. So the extended family, the child's adjustment to his or her home, school, and community. If a child is moved into one parent's custody, how well will they get adjusted is something that the courts consider. The mental and physical health of all the individuals involved, including obviously the parents. Again, these are factors that the court may consider, should consider. Evidence of an intra-family offense. Now, we talked about that when our guest was here before. An intra-family offense is anything such as a protective order, parental kidnapping, some offense that was committed from one parent to the other parent, or one parent to a child. Criminal. If that's happened, the courts may consider this when they're thinking about what's in the best interest of the child. The capacity of the parents to communicate and reach shared decisions affecting the child's welfare. That's a wash. It's very, if think about it. If two parents could effectively communicate, why would they be going to court? And I think we just lost Mr. Barulich, but hopefully he'll log back in. So the capacity of the parents to communicate. Well, yeah, usually when they're in court by this time, they're not communicating very well at all. The willingness of the parents to share custody. Some parents, they're willing to share custody as long as they get primary custody, or as long as they get the upper hand. The prior involvement of each parent in the child's life. This could be tricky because sometimes, here he comes, sometimes one parent has usurped all the authority from the other parent. So by default, one parent has no involvement, right? So the courts have to consider this. Was it voluntary or was it involuntary? Was one parent just so busy doing what he or she wanted to do? And then now all of a sudden he or she wants custody, maybe to avoid child support. The potential disruption of the child's social life and school life. If the child is living with one parent and then all of a sudden the court gives that other parent custody, is there going to be a massive disruption? The geographic proximity, where do the parents live? Sometimes there's out of state. Hopefully we'll have Mr. Amir back soon. The demands of parental employment. If one parent is working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, it may not be in the best interest of that child for the parent to have custody. When will he or she spend time with the child and raise the child? The age and number of children is a factor. The sincerity of each parent's request. So attorneys may want to show that the other side is not really sincere. They just want to stick it at the other parent. The parent's ability to financially support a joint custody arrangement. The impact of TANF, this is government assistance. And this is one that I really like to highlight to the court. The benefit to the parents. And as when Mr. Barulich comes on, again, we could talk about, in his particular case, sometimes it benefits a parent not to have custody. Sometimes a parent is so caught up in trying to get their lives together that having custody right now is not the best thing. And so the courts should consider this. So these are the factors that we have when we present a case. And our guest is, I'm hoping he could log back on. Our guest, all right, he's texting me. Is a guest that we had previously. One of our first shows, I think it was, first or second show, right, John? He had a situation where he has two, they're Muslim, and he was married to his wife. Then he had another wife, and they were all in the house with the kids. And the one wife, they divorced, and they had an arrangement where he had custody and she had every other weekend. And for the winter break in December, he drove the kids to her house. And when he went back to go get them, the ex-wife, the mother, and the kids were gone. And for 2 years, I think it was, he had been looking for her. He came to us. We found her in DC, and we started the lawsuit for him to get the children back. We had a long discovery. We had the show with him on here. He talked about him and his wife, current wife, talked about the whole situation. We showed the deposition of the mother, right? The other side got wind of that, and we had a big issue of whether or not there was a right that we could show that video. We bleeded out her face, the mother's face. It was weird because, and I know they're going to see this show, they wanted him not to speak his children's names. Can you imagine? You have children. You pick their names before they're even born. Then they're born, and someone tells you you can't speak their names. Yeah, well, that didn't go over too well. We did blot out the mother's face, and we blot out the attorney's faces because they weren't happy about being on our show without being asked. Yeah, so we're just still waiting for him to talk about it. We had the trial. It was a very interesting trial. The judge, I would say I thought she was fair. I thought she was very intelligent. And I'm not just saying that because the case is over, but the judge hasn't issued her order yet. I'm not trying to say that to get brownie points. She was very astute and I think fair, even though we did bump heads a few times. But I thought she was fair. And we're waiting now for that opinion to come out. But Mr. Amir is having problems logging on.
How did you find her? I know it was Baltimore. Do you remember how you found her?
She was actually in DC.
Okay.
I think we had an investigator.
Oh, okay.
She was. Yeah, very interesting case. The issue, there was also the issue of parental kidnapping. And that was something that I was really trying to, okay, he said he's trying to call in. I was really trying to push the parental kidnapping because I didn't want that to fall between the cracks. All right, hold on, I think he's, okay, let's see. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here now. My internet is acting crazy for some reason. It just went down on me.
Okay, well, we'll just have to do a phone interview because we're live. We're live. So I just did a recap of your case.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Can you try to, while you're going through, can you still try to do the computer thing just so we can see you? Because I know everybody in the world wants to see you.
Yeah, I'm trying to launch the meeting, but it's not letting me. I don't know if it's the internet in the area right now, or what's going on for real.
Okay.
Dave,
All right, so
pull that.
So we'll go ahead with it. Now, I already introduced you, Amir Barulich and your wife, Brittany.
Right.
Now, tell us about the trial. What was going into it? Talk to us about that.
So the trial, I think that I don't believe I got a fair trial, really.
Well, we don't know yet, right? We haven't. The opinion hasn't come out.
Well, when it came to the kids, the children, that was the only reason I say that is because they questioned my children, and I don't get to see my children much. So there was I'm positive that there was a level of manipulation on their mother's part. But the judge wound up questioning the children during the trial. That's the reason I say I didn't think it was fair. Yeah.
Now, just to recap it so everyone knows. Now, it was a 3-day trial or a 4-day trial?
We had a 4-day trial.
4-day trial. And everything was going very well. Mr. Barulich testified well. His mom was there. Beautiful lady. She testified from her spirit, from her soul. Brittany came. She testified. Your brother, right? Your brother came. Gave a quick, yes, one of the sheiks, one of the Islamic sheiks came. We were doing great. And then on the other side, talk to us about the issue that happened going into court one morning.
So you're talking about like the third morning?
When you tried to speak to your children and that.
Oh, okay. So the third day of trial, I was sitting there. I went to court and was waiting for you. It was about 8:50, right before 9 o'clock, and I saw the children walk in with their mother and their brother Khalif and their sister Tahira. As soon as they entered into the court building, they began to go straight down the escalator, and I was just sitting there thinking, like, you know, I haven't seen them in couple weeks. I wanted to say hi to them, so I walked. We were in the court building already. Like, we passed the guards and all that. So I walked to go say hi to Medium, and when I got to the escalator, I saw her on the escalator with her mother and Khalif and Tahira and her brother Ali. I said, "Hey, Mariam," and she turned around, looked at me, but I could see in her face that she was like feeling anxiety, like tensed. So, but I was already on the escalator, so I started following them down the escalator. I wanted to just give her a hug before court, and her brother pushed her along. Said, "No, Mariam, go.
And
Don't give him a hug."
when you say her brother, not your son, right?
No, Khalif. She has a teenage son named Khalif. He's around like I don't know, 18, between 18 and 20 years old, somewhere around there. And he pushed my daughter along, told her, "No, don't give him a hug." And I'm just like in court, thinking like I'm in the courthouse, like thinking like, wow, this is. So when I got to the end of the escalator, they were all there, and I went to give her a hug, and he like shoved her behind him, and like kind of like got in between me and her, and like face to face with me, and I'm like, yo, I just want to give my daughter a hug. But I saw that it was going to become confrontational, so I was like, let me just walk off because we was right there in the courtroom. And I was just crushed, honestly. Inside, I can't believe everything that's going on. I don't know why, she's holding the kids from even giving me a hug. And inside the courthouse at that, if that ain't controlling, I don't know what is. Like, she wouldn't even let me give So then I just walked off and went back upstairs. But as soon as I went upstairs, I was like sitting outside the bench, and I'm like thinking in my head, like, did I do something wrong? Like, I'm like, dang, like I think that they're gonna like try to say something because I don't know. I just was real nervous like about what the outcome of that was. But they actually did try to. She went into court
Well, that's
and
what
she said that like
I was gonna say, did her attorneys try to use that moment and present it before the judge?
against me. They acted like I was like some aggressive person or some aggressive guy that I just wanted to give my daughter a hug. And I wanted to give Ali a hug too, but I knew that I couldn't even get a hug off to my daughter. So it was like,
So just so we put everything in perspective, you saw your daughter, and how old is your daughter, the one that you wanted to give a hug?
my daughter is 9 years old, and she's like, me and her are really like close. Like before the kidnapping.
So you tried to give your 9-year daughter a hug when you saw her, and the mother's other son, who was between 18 and 20, he stepped in the way and wouldn't allow you to hug your daughter.
Right.
And then they went to court, and they tried to say that you wanted to pick a fight with the son.
Yeah. They said I wanted to pick a fight with the son, so I followed him downstairs in the courtroom, which is nonsense. I'm not gonna wait till 2 years for trial to get my kids back and pay all this money for lawyer fees and traveling and to go and fight him inside the courthouse. I mean, it was totally nonsense. I wanted to give my daughter a hug before I went and I hadn't seen them in a couple weeks, and this is kind of like has been like ever since she's been putting on this abusive narrative about me. This is kind of like how it's been. Like she's been like, I cannot like have a regular relationship with my kids with her having custody. There's no way. Like there's so much. Even the children themselves feel it.
Let me ask you this:
Yes,
was there anything in the trial that Melissa did outside of the whole situation with you trying to hug your daughter? Was there any other part of the trial that shocked you? And we're going to get to the part where the judge interviewed the children. Outside of that, did anything surprise you? What was your impression of the whole situation?
So, I was surprised. I'm surprised that I didn't like. So, to me, it's like if I would have did what she did, right, as a male, or just period. Like I feel like if I would have did what she did, I would have been held accountable immediately. Like once a judge actually got wind. So I was kind of like hopeful that once the judge begins to unravel and ascertain the truth of what's going on, that, you know, I would begin to get justice. And it just surprised me how it's things seemed really biased. And also, so what surprised me is that how this woman has repetitively lied on affidavits and in courtrooms and on court minutes and, you know, lied to law enforcement. And all of this has been brought out in the open. And it seems as if her word is still being, you know, held as if it's true, you know, and I haven't had one statement of us, you know, against me, one police statement where I ever abused her or the children. I've never been convicted. There was one statement, but it was thrown out. The case was thrown out. So from the DA, because they said there wasn't evidence to support the fact that what she was saying. So, and this was 2013. So this is 9 years ago. I'm talking about way before when we was in a relationship. Ever since then, there was never even no accusations of me of any abuse, you know? So it was like, it's just.
And what he's talking about is we presented evidence to the court where the mother lied under oath in an affidavit. And then we asked her about it on stand, and she admitted lying about lying.
Yeah, she's admitted to lying about lying. And then
so she, in other words, she was a clear perjurer. And I don't know how.
Yeah, exactly. In a nutshell, that's exactly what I'm saying. Right. She's a clear perjurer. Right. And then it's like, how could you, you know, so it's like, yeah, basically.
And how many witnesses did she have? Do you remember?
Well, she had 3 witnesses, I believe. She had her 2 children that live with her.
Right. So she had
That's
two
with her every day.
Right. So she had her 2 older children. One was I think 21 and the other was 18 or 19.
And she hates me. Tahira absolutely hates me ever since I've been.
When she called these witnesses, I was able to ask them about their father, and they admitted to barely ever seeing them. I asked them, did they like you? And they said not much. And I said, well, would you lie for your mom? And they were like, no. So I'm hoping the judge was able to pick up that these 2 kids would say anything to support their mother. So I don't think they were strong witnesses, but talk about the other witness that she brought in.
So, and then she brought a witness, her name is Fatima Siddiqui. She's, well, I shouldn't say that, but anyway, they brought a witness that's the mother of one of my children. So, she came to court and just lied on me. She don't like me. Me and her, so she came to court and she just made up a whole bunch of lies with no type of nothing to back any statement. Like for example, I wasn't listening too close to all of her statement on the stand, but like a piece of it I remember I caught was that she said I put like 32 stitches in her head. And I'm like, I'm thinking like, when did this happen? There was no police report of this. Basically we're just rambling a whole bunch of hearsay up on the stand, you know, about how I abused
even her, you're right. She was talking about you and your relationship with her and you and your relationship with your.
Yeah. She kept talking about my relationship with how I abused her.
Right. But she never said anything about you as a father. She even, on the contrary, she said that your daughter was the apple of your eye.
Yeah, she actually said good things about me as a father.
Right.
Honestly, it seemed like she said, like, you know, as far as being a father, but she was like going off about how much, you know, how bad I treated her during our relationship. And that was basically her testimony, was how bad I treated her during her relationship.
Clearly she didn't like you, and she was trying to stick it to you.
Oh yeah, and again, like I don't know how many times I could keep saying like, there's real abused women out there. So it's like, and I haven't, there's not like, when you get 32 stitches in your head or you getting abused and beat up and knocked upside your head, why isn't there not one police call involved? Like, are we talking about 32 stitches in your head? So it's like.
Do you remember the text message that you gave me that I shared at trial between you and her?
I don't really
You all was
remember
texting back, you were
exactly.
texting back and forth, and you
Right.
you said something to her that made it very difficult to believe that you did anything to her. Do you remember what it was about her weight?
Oh man, I can't even remember. Oh yeah, I said, like, I told her, I was like, yeah, you're like a few 100 pounds, and I'm like 140 pounds. Like,
Yeah, you had said in the text that you're like 150 or 160 pounds.
yeah,
How am I going to do anything to you? And this was, I guess, way back then.
right.
She
Yeah,
admitted,
and
yeah, you did.
exactly.
Right. So she was like twice your size, and she was trying
Right.
to say that you beat her up. And so I asked her about that text in court, and she said, I'm not 160 or whatever the weight was. The only thing she had to say about it was, I'm not that weight. But that was
Yeah, that's the only thing yeah.
so
I'm not,
that's
that's not my
why I
weight.
said up until then, we were looking really good. But then the judge
Yeah.
spoke to the kids. What happened when the judge spoke to the kids?
You know what? I have absolutely no idea, but I can tell
What did the
you
judge
the
say?
temperament.
What was the judge reading to us that last day of court?
Oh, so the judge said that the children's statement was enlightening, basically, to her, and that she does see that the children are basically being exposed to abuse, and that she believes them, and that they don't want to be with me.
Right.
And
That was the point.
honestly, one of my defense mechanisms for this type of stuff, like because this is like real trauma to my brain, because like I have never done anything to my children. So to be accused and then beaten and battered over and over and browbeat about me beating on my children, and then all the way to go through all of that and be happy to get all of this out into court, and then for the last day for this woman to question my children and then come into court and tell me what my children think about me, and she knows nothing about me, my children, or anything, and I hardly even see my children. I see them for a few hours every other week. So I see them literally 12 hours a month, while this woman is with them all the time. So the judge said that the judge said also that she does believe that I'm the one I've manipulated the children, or I've talked to the children about what's going on in court. And that's not true. Like, none of that is true. Only thing I told my children that day before court, I said, tell the truth. Whatever happens, always tell the truth. And that was my only advice to them. But I have no idea what Melissa told those children. I don't know. It's scary to me, because I don't know what they went in there and told that judge. And it was crazy
because everything that would have hurt our case is what the kids said. And the judge was reading it as though to say, you all know how I'm going to rule based on, and she even
basically
saying,
what
the kids said was very alarming and enlightening. But when I came to the closing, I pointed this out, and you all can see my screen, that the courts can consider the wishes of the child where practicable. And so I told the judge, if the kids were going to Mr. Barulich one week and the mother one week, back and forth for the last 2 years, then that's practicable. But the fact that these kids were with their mother for 2 years without even once seeing their father, talking to them now is just not fair.
At all.
She was 7,
and it's damaging to the children, furthermore, because the temperament of the children the day before trial okay, my daughter's very touchy. She hangs on me. She's always asking me for stuff. Daddy, daddy, daddy. She's such a daddy's girl. That day before trial, she didn't want to touch me. She didn't even want to look at me. And I'm like, why are they acting like this? Ali didn't want to say nothing to me. Like they was acting real standoffish. And I'm like, why are they acting like this? The next day is when I found out all of the stuff that was said. I was like, oh my goodness, like, because it was that Saturday and I had the court on Monday. But then that following, after court was done, trial was done, that following weekend, they had went right back to normal with me. Daddy, daddy, hey, how you doing? Like as if nothing ever happened. But that day before trial, oh my God, it was like, I don't know, I could feel like the anxiety coming off of them. Like whatever was going on that week and whatever was transpiring when they were at home and when their mother went back home, because their mother, she does a lot of like boo-hooing in front of them. So she'll sympathy. She does that, you know, oh, they're gonna take you from me and I'm gonna go to jail for this and blah, blah, blah. So they're gonna, of course they're gonna protect their mother. Oh, you know, she's in their ear. She's what do you call that when you like really, she's a nurturer. She nurtures them a lot and she's like babies them, you know? So like, for example, Ali's like 11 years old. He'll sleep in her bed with her. You know what I'm saying? So she's like, I don't know how to explain it. Like she's real manipulative. So I don't know. I don't know what she said to them before court. You know, all I told them.
We have an idea of what she said because what they told the judge was very. Now I want to also talk about this.
It was contradictory too, though, what they told the judge, because they said that I hit. They saw me hit the wives, but none of the wives saw me. It was like, I don't know. It was like none of the wives said I hit the kids. So it's like I'm only hitting. So the kids said I was hitting the wives, and all the wives said I was hitting the kids. It was just like, it was so confusing.
Yeah, that was the one thing I didn't agree with the judge with, is speaking to the kids. I didn't think it was proper. But I want to go back really quick to the parental kidnapping, because I presented this case to the judge. It was Fleet v. Fleet. If anybody's listening and want to pull up this citation, it's 137 A3D 983. And in this particular case, it was a parental kidnapping case. Mr. Fleet, the father of the child in this case, took the child, the child was waiting in the car while the mother went into the building for something. I think that's what it was. And the father took the kid out and took the child across the street to an office, his office building. And the parent, for a few hours, and the mom reported to the police that he had kidnapped the daughter because she didn't know where she was for those few hours. And the court agreed. And they said that this was parental kidnapping. They said it doesn't matter how long the child is gone, just as long as the parent doesn't know where it is. And it doesn't matter how far the child was taken. But Mr. Fleet, the father, was found guilty of parental kidnapping. So I told the judge, in this case, the mother took the child, both children, to a totally different state for 2 years. So how can you not? And we don't know. I think she's going to find her as guilty of parental kidnapping. It will be very difficult for her not to. But that's just to give you an example of how parental kidnapping is applied to men. Now we're going to see if it's applied to that in this particular case. Now I want to get Dr. Cheney in. Dr. Cheney, do you have any questions for, knowing that he's been through this trial? We're still waiting for the outcome. We don't know how it's going to go. Do you have any questions for him?
Well, how are you?
Hey. I'm doing as good as I can.
Let me, well, as always, I was going to ask you, were you ever uneasy in the court experience? And I gather you definitely were. But do you think your religion has anything to do with it? Or lifestyle?
Well,
when I say lifestyle, Well, you get
Yeah,
the idea of
so
the lifestyle.
yeah, so basically, I do think that my religion had something to do with it because I feel like Melissa and her attorneys played on the fact that I am a polygamist, and in my religion, we're allowed to have open relationships with understanding involved, and like I told the judge, I would, in these relationships, everybody has individual responsibility of choice. It's not like I took Melissa and chained her down, listen, you're going to be in a, no. She decided to be in this relationship, and when she was ready to go, she left, so, which actually I'm the one who divorced her, but because the situation, the toxicity, but yeah, I do feel like my religion played it because the attorneys, they made it into that.
Yeah, they wanted to
Kept using
highlight the
words like
polygamy.
misogynist. I'm a misogynist. They kept using these type of words, which led me to believe that this definitely has something to do with the way I live my life, my lifestyle, my religion.
But
Because
the
of the
important
words,
thing
the
is,
terminology.
Amir, the important thing is they wanted to highlight the polygamy, but they wouldn't want us to talk about any other aspect of Islam. Remember, they fought, their attorney said,
Yeah,
we
that
don't want
too.
anybody talking about, because
That
then
too.
she agreed to live under these circumstances. And we were prepared to have an Islamic scholar come in, but their attorneys objected, and the judge said, yeah, we don't need to hear about Islam.
Yeah. Right.
But then he's
Right.
right. They wanted to make sure, and they wanted to highlight this polygamy. He has these wives in the house and he's beating all of them. That's the picture that they wanted to paint.
And Amir,
And
see, that's
Melissa,
the other thing that I wanted to go into, and Solon just went into it a bit. The woman, your ex-wife, accepted the role, the relationship. Are you able to school me and others on, is this the way it's done? That if you decide to
yeah,
participate, do you have a right to go negative? It's almost like I'm missing
negative.
something. What made her
No,
go
I
negative?
understand. Go ahead. Negative in terms of
Everything, really. And the way she is dogging you out, so to
yeah.
speak.
So right, yeah. I mean, so in Islam, slander, backbiting are grave sins, of course. So any type of slander, backbiting. So she's used these egotistical characteristics in order to achieve her motives. Of course, she's wrong Islamically, right? In terms of that, so she said in Islam women don't have rights. That's a lie. So women have enjoyed several rights in Islam. I could just name a couple real quick off the jump. One would be that men in Islam have to maintain the women financially, during the marriage. So the financial part is on the men. In a real Islamic relationship, a woman doesn't have to go out there and work. So, there's few rights like that. Another right that she definitely enjoyed, was the right that when I divorced her, I paid 3 months of her rent. I called her father. I divorced her amicably. Hey, come get your daughter. We're having issues. There's a lot of issues in the relationship. He took her back to Massachusetts. I paid 3 months of her rent to get her back on her feet. I kept the kids. These are all Islamic protocols that I was carrying out. And all through the marriage, she was down with Islam and enjoying all of her rights until 2 years after the divorce. Envy set in, jealousy set in. You got to remember, I moved on beautifully. Like, I moved on. I have my wife here who I've been with and have 3 kids with, and we've been consistent, and she's just like my backbone. And then I went on to marry a doctor. So that really burnt her. It was like he's with a doctor now. Like, so she had to, where she managed on sabotaging that situation, but I'm not worried about it. So she had to create a narrative of abuse about me. She had to create a narrative, you know, and I don't hit my kids, you know, so it's just, and so, yeah, so yes, I do think that Islam was used on her and her attorney's part, which was a plot from the jump. Yeah, it was a plot to discredit Islam, to make women look like they don't enjoy comfortability within this religion. You know, and all religions, by the way, there's all different types of sects and schools of thought within these religions. So, you know, for her to paint the school of thought that I follow, to try to paint it as an extremist school of thought, no, that's not factual. All of the facts are out there. Anybody could look up, you know, Shia Islam, and that's the Islam that I follow, and the rights that women enjoy. Everything is all, information is all online, you know, and so there's a doctrine in place, and then there's individuals that do what they want to do. So this is what's going on. You know, she's just doing, from an Islamic perspective, she's doing what she wants to do. She's not following Islamic, you know, Islam.
What advice would you give to someone going to court in a case similar to yours? Kind of just generally, what advice would you give someone? Select a different kind of judge who's in my religion?
I'm not a, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a good person to ask for this, because in terms of this, I'm so discouraged. When you say courts with me, I clam up. I haven't got justice in any type of way. So what can I tell anybody else who's trying to get justice? Like, I can't tell them nothing, right? I haven't obtained justice myself. I don't have no advice for nobody. I'm still here. My mind is still blown how she got away with it. I feel like if I would have did it, I would have been under the jail right now. Like, if I'd have took the kids, kept them away, you know, and just all on a false narrative without no real evidence, no nothing, just me saying that she did, you know, I feel like I would have been persecuted, you know, so I don't have that type of advice.
I have a neighbor, he's Muslim, he's from Egypt, and I learned a lot interacting with him. He's a fighter. Yeah. He loves to go to court and fight, but he has a different kind of issue or problem. Okay. But things will get better.
Yeah, we'll wait.
Yeah,
they
will.
Yeah. We'll wait. The judge might surprise us. John, right. I want you to jump in. John has some questions for you. Hold on, Amir. John has some questions. Okay.
Well, I guess the first thing I'd like to say is, Amir, well, you've been through the ringer. And let's put that card on the table right from the get-go. Yeah. Multi-years through the ringer. And I can very much appreciate and understand your frustration. And your previous comment then plays in, you know, when Dr. Cheney asked you about what advice you would give anyone else. And you say, well, I ain't got any advice because this has been a terrible experience, essentially. And since, again, what we talk about here over and over again is tackling injustice, it sounds like for you, the injustice continues big time. Big time. Without knowing what the outcome is, and even if the outcome turns out in your favor, there still may be a piece of you at the end of all this that says injustice really was all over this. And so I guess my question, or the sense of, you know, how, if you could speak a little bit more, you've given some indications, but speak a little bit more about your sense of how the injustice of, or how you see the situation has really impacted you personally.
the way this has, uh, the way this has affected me personally, I mean, in every way and every aspect, mentally, physically, there was the weeks I wasn't able to eat. Mentally, from the perspective of like me going through all this, and like I still have a whole life and family that I have to keep moving for, but I'm trying to get these kids. It's like a running race. Like I'm all over the place trying to get these children back home, and I still have family that I have to be healthy for and keeping it moving and doing all of the things that I need to do. I mean, the aspect of the feelings that I have inside, from like just being accused of something so disgusting and so horrible and so like opposite of who I am, right? It's like I have to deal with that, right? And then the thoughts of the aftermath with the children, right? And then like, so it's just like I've been like, to me, I don't know, like all of the effect of everything, like it doesn't really even sink in, like for real. But you know what? As a Muslim, right, I have to, tap into myself and for my own benefit and my own soul to actually come to terms with essentially forgiving this woman for what she's done, because if I didn't, I would just like really just keep thinking and thinking about this and how wrong she's done me and how terrible she's done me. And I feel like, as a Muslim, I know, that this life is not it and it's not over here, and that we, our souls are eternal, and the things that and the actions that we do in this life, eventually we will, be held accountable for it. And I don't have like those feelings where I feel like, oh, I feel like she, I have hateful feelings towards her, or I want her to, for example, burn in hell or something for what she's done. But, I really forgave her, honestly. I forgive her. I just want my kids back. This is the only way I really could deal with this. I really forgive her, honestly. And I just want to get away from her, honestly. So that's the way I'm healing now, trying to heal, like, for real, from it. I don't know, like, how much the impact has been, but it's like it's still a fight right now. Like you said, it's and then hopefully once I get this answer back, if it's negative, like, and when I say negative, meaning she gets the children, it's just something like I got to deal with in life, But ultimately, it's really not even. It's like ultimately, it's not even about me. Like, it's about the kids. Like, I gotta watch my kids like go through this and grow up and have this trauma in their life to where it might affect them down the road, or which I know it is already. Like, and that was another thing that the judge was saying. Like, oh, it shows that the children like are doing so good where they're at, when she saw them for like, I don't know exactly how long, but could have been more than a couple of hours, and she knows nothing about them, and she dressed them up all cute and all pretty to go see the judge, and had them like, go in there and have a little act with the judge, when I see Ali and Mariam every other weekend, and it's 98 degrees out, and Ali got a thick hoodie on, and he's pale because
the judge only met with him for maybe 10 minutes each. 10 minutes each was probably the most.
Oh, yeah? 10 minutes? Oh, wow. But she had ascertained all of this in 10 minutes. That's even more, reason to discredit all of that stuff. They need to take that out of the law, for real. Like, they should not interview children. I think that's probably the worst law.
Not in this situation.
Yeah, it's definitely not fair. It's not just, none of that, because like I said, and like I just saw Ali last weekend, not this,
How have the
this
visits been
weekend,
going,
not
by the way? How have the visits been going since?
so like, yeah, after the course, the kids started acting so much back to normal. We went down to what's that park over there down DC? We was down at the water. We was down at like a little water park down there in Southeast DC. And when I came to get them, and we've been having like really great visits. It's almost like nothing. Like they went back to like the way they act normally. Like, but leading up to the court date, they was acting weird. But like I said, Ali, he had like a hoodie on, like, and it's like 90-something degrees. It's like not this Saturday, not yesterday, but the Saturday before, yesterday. But it's like
Now we
every
have
time he comes,
we
he's
have
got
we
the
have
same hoodie on.
Amir,
He's
we
got
have
the same
audience.
hoodie on. But,
Amir, we have audiences that may not know what a hoodie is. What's a hoodie?
oh, so a thick hooded sweatshirt that has a hood on it. A sweatshirt that has a big hoodie on it, a big hood on it. So he's wearing that, and it's almost 100 degrees. And it's like and I know teenagers, they kind of do stuff like that, but it's like every weekend he has every other weekend he has the same hoodie on, same white hoodie, and it's thick and it's heavy. And then under that, he had a sweater on, like a cashmere sweater under the hoodie. I was like thinking like, oh my God, like, so it's like things like this that the judge doesn't see. The kids are up all night. They're on TikTok. They're on this. They're on that. And the judge doesn't know none of that. She probably just met him up, got her hair done, all put bow ties in her hair. And Ali went up in there with a button up. And he's very sharp. So he's sharp enough to know what to say. Oh, the other thing that she said, the judge said that totally crushed me. She said, in Ali's face, she saw somewhat of fear in him when she was talking about me or something to that effect. She said the word fear. That's why I emotionally broke down in court. Yeah. I'm just like I like, to me, like, I'm like, what is this judge talking about? Like, is she really, like, after all this, like all these days in court, like she's really just came up here and really just said that she believes that I'm beating on my children, and that I was like, I could not believe it.
To put things in perspective, I want the audience to know this is a man who's had his children all of their lives, taking care of them.
All their lives.
Then one day, the mother takes them away for 2 years. And then they come back, and now all of a sudden the children are saying they're afraid of this man who's taken care of them for so long. Just imagine being in that situation.
Right. Yeah. And when I see them, it's none of that. It's hey, Dad. But they don't know that I know what the judge said, because I'm not gonna bring that up to them. No. I'm just trying to make everything just go away. Just try to be as normal as possible. So they don't know that the judge said to me, that they don't like me, basically, and that they'd rather be with their mother. And, they've seen me hit women, and they don't know that the judge told me that. So it's like they just came acting normal those nights, and I just acted normal. And I honestly, it's just been back to normal for real. I don't even.
Yeah. John, did you have anything else?
Well, I want to try to, for one, I appreciate Amir sharing. That's a lot of painful stuff to put out on the table. Yeah. I want to separate a little bit. He talked about his ex-wife mainly, and the injustices in a sense that came from there. I get that. That's that human to human thing that we do to one another. But for the purposes of what we do here, and for your students, Solon, and folks like that, I wanted to sort of zero in a little bit about what he said about the institutional injustice. Because that's what we get into. Well, is the institutions unjust, or is it how the institutions are used? But in Amir's case, there's a sense that the institutions are doing him wrong. And and to say, well, and the impact of his understanding of what, for most people, right? Most people never really encounter the legal system. probably 85% of most people have very little encounters with the legal system. Well, here's somebody who has had a very, shall we say, intimate encounter with the legal system. And now he's hasn't quite walked away from it yet, but he's getting close to sort of walking away from this, and how the institution has left him feeling about how our systems are working or not working on behalf of people. And I think it's important to point that out, the impact on people and how the flaws that can creep in so easily.
Right.
And so Dr. Cheney had asked a question, what would he have done differently, or what advice did he have? He couldn't answer that, but I'd like to give a bit of advice to parents who might have a situation similar. Try to work it out the best you can, because you have no idea how it will turn out. Now, with what John just said, remember, the system is pretty much the laws that are in place. And the laws that are in place here says that the court may consider the wishes of the child where practicable. That's the law. That's the system. The judge now could have said, these kids have been with the mother for 2 years. I'm not talking to them. Me talking to the kids is going to be me talking to the mother. The law allowed that.
Right.
But this judge said, no, the law says I can, and so I will. So being a defender of the legal system, I would say it wasn't the system. In this particular case, it was the judge. She had no business talking to these children.
Could have made a different call. Was there a guardian here? Was there a guardian?
There was no guardian ad litem in this case.
How could there not be a guardian ad litem?
Yeah, that's another long story.
I don't know how much of a difference, because they still could have been manipulated, but
Yeah.
I know a guardian would have certainly spent more than 10 minutes with.
Yeah, and to let the audience know what that term is, guardian ad litem.
Oh, me. A guardian ad litem would be somebody that the court appoints, a neutral, not connected to the mother, not connected to the father. Their job is to represent the child. And so they would go and see the living situation of the child. What is it like? Where are they? Is it nice? Is it safe? Is it well put together? And they would have, I would think, more than one interview with the children, with both parents, I would think. And then the guardian ad litem makes a report back to the court with recommendations. This is what we've seen, this is what we see, this is what we think makes the best interest of the child. And as, again, that's not infallible, as we have experienced with other clients where there have been guardians who have inexplicably, in many instances, taken up with what we would consider a very inappropriate position. But in this scenario, it had to have been better than the judge having 10 minutes with each child in court.
And also know there were 3 judges in this. The first judge, a motion was filed for guardian ad litem. That judge denied it. I forgot his reasoning. Then we had another judge who was on the case. He got moved. And then we were finally with this last judge. So this last judge had to catch up on all that was filed at the very beginning and the judge's ruling. So now that might be a fault of the system, because maybe it wasn't a bad thing that the judges were moved because the other 2, but there you have it. But a guardian ad litem was requested. Even a home study was requested. We did get a psychological exam on both parents. And I won't even bring up the results of that, because I'm sure we'll be getting notification from the other side if I reveal the results of that.
No,
Amir, yeah, we won't do that. So Amir, thank you again for coming on. And I don't know how it's going to
No,
turn out.
Mr. Solon, listen, I thank you, my friend, for everything, all of your energy, all of the time that you spent, trying to put motions together and staying up for me to go to trial and putting things aside for me, man. You have no idea how much I appreciate you, and even the other two, your colleagues that are in the room. I appreciate you guys all, Mr. Solon. You, of course, the most, man. You have no idea. So,
well, that's what we do, and it was my pleasure working with you. And we'll see.
God bless you, man.
We'll see what happens, my man.
Thank you so much, man.
All right, thanks for being here. Give Brittany my love.
Okay, I will. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wish you the best.
Okay.
So, Dr. Cheney, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, you don't really want me
You
to get
seem
into.
no, I do.
Look,
Yeah, you seem
I'm so
caught up
involved
in
with
the
fraud
polygamy.
on the court.
No, but
Anytime you lie and they can prove that it's a lie, and that lie can turn the court in a particular direction, you got an appellate case.
yeah. And again, the law says that if someone lies, there should be consequences
They
and
are.
repercussions. But
Yeah.
sometimes judges overlook that.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to go to another judge. And it is allowed. It's an interesting case that I read about family law. And I'll send it to you all. And I just thought it was so interesting because that's what you do. And it was a fraud on the case, fraud on the court. It's a different term, but family law. And I said, wow, that is totally different from what I've been reading.
Yeah.
So you just can't lie in court.
You can't.
You can lie, but if it's a lie that really changes the wheel of justice
But you can't
to a
lie,
particular
period.
side, yeah, no, you're not supposed to.
Yeah, John.
Lying on an
All those
affidavit,
election cases that prove that, right? You kind of,
yeah,
what you can say on social media, what you can say on a street
Mhm.
corner, what you can say on this talk show or that talk show, you can't get up in front of a judge and say, and they will slap you down in a minute. And no, this isn't that kind of place. Yeah, you want to stand on a street corner, you can say whatever you want. That's your First Amendment right to a certain extent. But you come in here, you can't be just saying any old thing.
Right. What was interesting about this case is that their strategy seemed to be just throw everything. They were like, they brought the witness in, the young lady who was talking about Amir fighting her 10 years ago. They brought in a recording of Amir shouting that was like 14 years ago or something crazy. They brought in a clip of our show. Now, what did our show have to do with these children? But they brought in a clip of our show and wanted to bring that up.
Well, it goes to your point from before. It makes me think anyway, when your advice to other parents who find themselves in this situation, yes, try to work it out, but the other part of that is document everything.
Yeah.
Make a record, make videos, make whatever is legal within your jurisdiction to do, because, he should be able to show, look at the great interactions I've had with my children. Here is extrinsic evidence. It's not me just saying it. Here, look, or whatever it might be. Document, because that can make a big difference in the end, as opposed to you just getting up there and saying, oh, yeah, this is the way it was.
Oh, yeah.
When Solon talked about working it out, I was thinking about, we're talking about two different lifestyles. We're talking about two different cultures, really. That's could be considered a subculture, but the fact that there's the Islamic way of doing things and there's the American way of doing things, and you're within America, I'm wondering if it's all over as far as if this court doesn't work out, will other people in the Islamic community step in and change things? I don't know. I was just wondering about that.
Yeah, I don't think they could, because we're still under the jurisdiction of American law. She could say, well, I'm not going to be Islam anymore.
Oh,
I I wanted to bring in Islam to show that what she was doing is totally forbidden. And she already agreed to be bound by the tenets of Islam. Under that agreement, he had the kids. They agreed to it. That's how he had them to begin with. But then she switched and wanted to be governed by the US state law. So, yeah.
I was wondering, can you do that and still be in the religion?
Yeah, it could have turned out to be a big religious rights, family law case, but we'll see. All righty, you all. Thank you again, and we will see each other again next week. We'll be tackling more.
Indeed we will.
Hit the red button to subscribe. Emails go to the Legal Zone. What is our email? info@thelegalzone.net. It's on the whatever the email is. Send in your emails. We enjoy reading them. All righty, you all. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Solon.
Alrighty.
Thanks for watching our video. For experienced legal services in Washington, D.C., Alabama, and Washington State, visit our website at remuslaw.com or call us at 1-833-329-1799.